Welcome. Looks like we're connecting to audio yet. Welcome, everybody. We're very excited to have you here with us today. We'll get started in just a minute. We are going to go ahead and toss an attendance link into chat. And if you could take just a moment to click that, that would be great. We won't be collecting any information. That will just tell us that you were here. And it will also let me go ahead and send you a certificate for attending. So if you could go ahead and click that once that's in chat. Thanks, Linda. Linda just tossed that into chat for us. All right, we'll get started in just a minute. I'm very excited about today's session, so not going to take too much longer before we dive in. So glad you could join us today. We are recording today, so you can certainly feel free to turn on your video if you're comfortable with that. And if there is anything you'd like to chime in with, if you've got questions or you have stories to share, this is going to be a great session for that. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So my name is Lori, and I am a PD specialist here at CodeHS. We also have a couple other CodeHS team members with us. We have Leah with us, and she is the director of PD. And we also have Linda with us, who's another PD specialist here at CodeHS. And you are all here to hear Joe Thompson tell us about building a certification culture at your school. You all are really going to love this. This is going to be not just an informative session, but I think a really inspiring session too. So I think you've heard enough from me. I'm going to go ahead and mute and turn it over to Joe. Joe, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Lori. And I'm so glad to have you all here today. And I hope that this can be somewhat conversational. Also, there'll be several spots where we can stop, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of your thoughts on what I'm going to be showing you today about what we've done at my current school to boost the idea that certifications, badges, and other sort of things that you can do for students to recognize their achievements can really help encourage engagement and can help get them where they want to be. And, I've done this in the context of grades being not the perfect motivator, and the same thing with my sort of ongoing dance with the AP Java course, which I fault sometimes for not encouraging people enough. It's a little bit more of a weed out course than I would like, and I've had some experiences with students feeling a little bit left by the side of the road. So that's what sort of first pushed me towards looking at certs, and I've sort of come to really embrace the idea of certifications. So let me start. We're going to talk about today about badges, which you all know about, and I've come to think of badges as sort of a beginning step towards getting certification, and sometimes a badge in and of itself is worthy recognition, and it can be useful to just sort of stop and reflect and say, wow, I just did something that's, notable. I want to talk about this idea of the Hall of Fame, which is basically some large sheets that are in my classroom where I recognize student achievement, or I recognize a particular event that's taken place that needs to be noted, and that can help with students understanding that they've just done something really cool. And I think many of you know that CodeHS offers certifications, and I've come to think of these as terrific ways to get people started on the road of certifications. And they're a really nice first step before people go for things like Oracle certs or any of the CompTIA certs. And they're a good sort of introduction to the idea that here comes an exam. You're going to sit for an exam that's going to recognize that you have a certain ability in a topic. And then we'll talk a bit about Oracle certs, which we are using, and I like them, particularly for the Java language, and then some of the CompTIA certs that are a little more sort of adult learner career changer type certs, but that I think have a place in a modern high school environment. So before we wander into that stuff, I want to show you a video of an astronaut named Megan MacArthur, and we'll get a feel for a kind of a unique journey here. Let's go.
My name is Megan MacArthur. I'm the pilot for NASA's SpaceX Crew 2 mission to the International Space Station. I first thought of becoming an astronaut when I was in high school. So my dad was a Navy pilot. And so I first thought, well, I'd love to be a pilot. We lived at Moffett Field Naval Air Station, which was connected with the Ames Research Center. I would hear the wind tunnels going, you know, at all hours of the day and night. And also it's where shuttle astronauts would come to do their landing and rollout training. And so I would see them, you know, come in their T-38 jets and get out in their spiffy blue light suits and walk in to do their training. And I thought, well, that looks like fun. How do I get that job? And I knew that it was a long shot, right? But I also knew that I wanted to be a part of something like that, right? A part of this bigger thing of exploration. And then I kind of took this left turn into oceanography, but really it's all about exploration. We're not better equipped to survive underwater, you know, any better than we are in outer space. And so we need technology to help us explore those areas. So how do we do those things? You know, we can send rovers, we can send people, you know, we have to build the right kind of machines to support that. And so there's a lot of parallels. From graduate school in oceanography, I always had this idea in the back of my mind, and I went ahead and applied, and I got really lucky. Every launch experience is very unique to the individual. You know, we climbed aboard and there's that period of waiting, and you actually get a little bit uncomfortable. You know, your body starts to cramp up and you're ready to go. And then when the actual launch goes, it's indescribable. It's so much energy. You are moving so fast. One of my main focuses was capturing this free-flying vehicle, the Hubble Space Telescope. The really complicated spacewalks that were planned out, 5 spacewalks back to back to back. So it was just this tremendous rush of activity for really 11 days until we were ready to let the telescope go. 3, 2, 1, release. And back and away. Clear the antenna. We dream these amazing dreams. We have these huge goals, and we're going to be successful when we work on them together. When you think about the International Space Station and the size of that vehicle and the breadth of science that gets accomplished on that vehicle with all of the different countries that are participating, and then now we've added commercial partners where they have a vehicle that we are using to get us to our space laboratory. We have these big dreams where we look out to the horizon and this desire to explore the universe around us, and we're always going to be more successful when we work together to achieve these incredible dreams.
All right, so let's push on. Come on now. Let's go escape. Oh, sorry guys. Okay, here we go. All right, let's start talking about badges. And you know, I initially was going to start talking about certs, and then I realized that we have these nice badges built into our courses, and also CodeHS offers a way for us to build our own badges and award them to students. And I think that these are a nice intermediate step for students to push toward. You know, nothing is easy about what we do. Nothing's easy about writing code. Nothing's easy about learning complicated syntax. And particularly with my AP Java course, which I use the CodeHS platform for, I like having a lot of badges to keep people going through the difficult stuff. And I think we can all make a big deal out of badges. There are things we can do with them. I've made a bunch of badges for different percentages complete in the course, and so it helps the student sort of recognize, hey, you know, I've gotten this far. And then you can also print these badges. CodeHS has these built into some of their courses, and you can just print these out and use them as a certificate, or you can sign them, or the student can find ways to use them. And some of these are pretty worth doing. These actual badges themselves, they make kind of nice little mini certs. A lot of our courses have projects in them, and it would certainly be appropriate. You want, if you're teaching an AP Java course, you want to have some projects in there that students are finishing that they can point to. They can have a portfolio of code, and these projects would make a nice part of that portfolio. And so a badge would be a perfect thing to award for somebody who's built, say, the Battleship game, which has been a part of CodeHS for a while, or a tic-tac-toe game, or even something like a chatbot. It'd be a nice thing to have that says, hey, I've got this project running. It's pretty nice. Congratulations. First person to finish something, you can respect that. You can make badges for completing particular modules or sections. So there's an array list section in AP Java, and I just made a badge, said, hey, we fought our way to the end. One of the challenges for me in moving through AP Java is actually letting go of a section and pushing on to the next one. And, a badge like this is helpful in saying, you finish this, now it's really important that we keep moving so that we can get finished with the course in time to do our exam review. So something like this might help with that. And then you have other kinds of badges that you can award for sort of qualitative aspects. Like if you see a student who's done something that's fairly imaginative, or if they've been able to abstract away parts of a problem or deal with that, that's that cat there is Choo Choo from Top Cat, which is gonna mark my age. What's a very long time ago cartoon. So thinking about things in fairly abstract terms, or you can decide your own ideas about what sort of qualitative things that might make nice badges, and I'd love to hear about those. Most online platforms or online games are quick to award badges to people who are getting started. They want to get them cranked up and started. And I think it's totally appropriate for somebody who's just logging in or getting through that very first lesson for them to get a badge for that. Halfway is a nice badge, and I also have a badge for somebody who is the first person to get halfway, and that's a lemon on top of a pear there. Then we have some tools that we use in AP Java, for example, a fairly sophisticated coding tool called IntelliJ, and you want to maybe teach your students about using that tool. And if they can show you, hey, I built this thing in IntelliJ, and then I copied the code into CodeHS and ran it, or want to give you some ideas about some ways they might use a fancier coding tool, I think that's a great thing to do, to recognize. Collaboration, we all need to have or build collaboration skills as we become better at coding. And the days of the lone genius coding in his basement are over. We're all working in teams now, and you might have some coders who are pretty good on their own, but might need to work on their collab skills. They might need to get a little more inclusive. They might need to recognize the students that they will ask to debug their code. And it's nice to have a badge for that, I think. And this is another particular project, Battleship, which I think is worth recognizing. And then a lot of us use AP Classroom in addition to CodeHS, and you might, if you have some sort of parallel course structures, you might want to recognize that with a badge that would apply inside CodeHS. So you might want to think about stuff that I've just shown you, and we could maybe have in the chat or something like that about what sort of other badges that you might imagine making. Let me go back one slide. There we go. Whoops, hold on. Oh, here I am again. Let me escape out of here. Let's go back. There we go. That's where I want to be. Okay, well, I'll just keep going, Lori. So I want to talk next about the idea of a Hall of Fame. And I have to tell you, I felt like this has been a very successful tool for me. And it's very easy and cheap to do this. You would just do this with a piece of tear off poster paper, I like the giant pads of Post-its because they're nice and sticky and you can move them around and add things to them. And I've had a lot of success. It's something you don't know how it's going to go when you first try it, and then the students start talking about it and people get added to it, and there's a lot of speculation about who's going to go on the Hall of Fame next, or what sort of deed somebody did that earned them a spot on the Hall of Fame. And it gives you a kind of power beyond the grade that you put on a student's paper or a quiz to recognize a nice moment that occurs in the classroom, or some achievement that might be a little bit out of the ordinary. It can go right on the Hall of Fame. And one area that I can think of where that's happened a lot for me lately is in my cybersecurity class, where I'm to some extent learning sort of alongside my students, and they'll do something amazing, and a good place to note that is on this Hall of Fame. So let's keep going. And I think a way to start thinking about building a Hall of Fame might be to ask yourself this question: what achievements of your students are you most proud of? And this is probably something beyond, well, somebody turned in a really great test, although it could be, but it might be a project they built, or it might even be an innovative way of solving a problem, or some graphics thing somebody did. One of the things that occurs to me, 2 years ago, I had a Summer Nelson, who was a sophomore at that time, and she put audio to a couple of the JavaScript things in the intro to JavaScript, and I was just so psyched to see somebody do that. And then, of course, a bunch of other students found ways to add audio to theirs, and it was us. We sort of off we went. Let's keep going here.
Joan, what a great way to really still build that sense of community, not just with students and teacher, but once you start celebrating those achievements, it's great to see, what students will pick out from each other's work too, as a real achievement. So love that.
Yeah, they certainly, that's such a good point. I think it would be good to make sure that all the students understand that they should be the ones to help recognize people, who've done something really good. Absolutely great point. So this is like a 2.5-year-old sheet that I had on my classroom, and I was building this presentation. I'm like, this thing doesn't look very good. So I made that little note that said, redo your Hall of Fame from time to time. But this is some of the certs that my students have earned, and I've put them on their own sheet in the Hall of Fame. I just redid this one today. Certainly worth recognizing these kinds of things. And if you put the CodeHS certs up there next to the other certs, then it helps value. It boosts the brand of the CodeHS certs into parallel with the Oracle and the CompTIA certs. So that's one thing I like that this board does. All right, so if we create a Hall of Fame, let's just look at some of the particulars here, how this sheet came together. This was built actually during this awful pandemic that we had, where we were flipping back and forth between virtual and a little bit of in-person. And what happened in my school is we were 2 days a week with high school students in person, and then my classroom would be taken over by middle school students for the other 3 days, and my high school students and I would go virtual for the last 3 days of the week. So it's really pretty tough. But in this time, some of my Python guys wrote Minecraft scripts, and Dimitri West, who I had for the summer, was working on a project in Hyperskill, and he did this huge project, and I sort of chose to recognize that. And then Naomi actually sort of spoke up for the group. This is sort of similar to what Lori was talking about, where you can have a student who is doing something that's a reflection of the wishes of the whole class, and that would be a totally appropriate thing to stick on the Hall of Fame. And then TJ won the Stokes, which we were just so excited about. It's a really good scholarship at NSA. Let's see. So these last two we have on here are just Carol exercises that I happen to think are very difficult and very worthy of recognition. That fried egg one that you guys all know from Intro to JavaScript is a tough one because you're creating all these objects and they have to be in the sort of right order. The computer can't draw the egg white underneath the frying pan. So I like fried egg as a big old challenge. And we all know super cleanup Carol is really, really tough. So Cole did that. And I put it on this sheet. And then one of my cyber guys, we were having a really tricky time just getting Burp Suite going. And I noted that on the Hall of Fame. And Anthony, who's one of these sort of lacrosse player swagger guys, was really psyched. He was really tickled that he got on the Hall of Fame there. So I have one going currently, and this is an example of what happens when one person gets up on the Hall of Fame. Now all of a sudden everybody else decides that's something they really want to do. So fried egg became very, very popular, and people were helping each other and looking at each other's code and thinking of different ways to do fried egg, and it sort of helped. And I had no problem remarking that all of them, each of them could go up there, because they would sort of finish fried egg, show it to me and go, do I get on the Hall of Fame now? I'm like, okay, sounds good. I reach for the marker and put it on there. And then there's another cyber guy. We got BeagleBone Blacks going. One of my cyber people was doing an internship last summer, and they passed out BeagleBone Blacks. And so we got a couple here so that nobody would feel like it was the first time they'd ever seen one, which is kind of how my student felt last summer, but she did great with it. So we recognize that. And then Mackenzie, one of my intro students, intro senior softball player, she did Caterpillar, which I think of as a pretty tough one in the intro JS, but she used 2 code blocks. So her Caterpillar drew all the reds first and then went back and drew all the greens. And I thought that was pretty cool and worth noting. And then we have another guy, Super Cleanup Carol, and then these internships, which I have a Hall of Fame that just has internships on it. So these kind of made it on here. Oh, and then we had a moment where one of my students who was just sort of getting going with Java, but got herself into a place where it was really getting frustrating. And Owen McKinnell came along and saw the problem, which was a couple of missing curly braces, and fixed it. And everybody sort of exhaled after that happened. And I wanted to acknowledge his achievement in debugging Nina's code there. So I put that up. Let's see. Oh, there's a few other things that I would say would be worthy of including. We just were in a cyber competition 2 weeks ago. And our guys did better, way better than we thought we were going to do. And something like an admission to college, you could acknowledge that. I think would be a good thing. Maybe work studies. If somebody gets a work study, that's, I think, worthy of recognition. And our guys winning CodeQuest last year, certainly Hall of Fame kind of thing I would put on a Hall of Fame. So maybe this is a time for some of you to think about where. I know we all have crowded rooms and we've got a lot of good messages, positive messages to our students in different places in the room. And you might want to think about where you might want to put that thing in your classroom. I'm kind of lucky I don't have as much stuff filling every wall as a lot of other teachers. So I have room for more Hall of Fame sheets to go in my classroom. And then if I needed to overflow, I could go out into the hall.
I'm a big fan of publicizing those Hall of Fames.
There we go. So if you put it in the hall,
as much as possible. Yep.
Sure. Why not put it in the hall? You better look half decent if you're going to put it in the hall. So make it a second draft if you're going to put it in the hallway.
What a great way to drive. Just to engage your kids and really drive them and they want those achievements. I think that's awesome. That's just amazing. And these might be kids who don't necessarily experience those kind of, celebrated successes. So this is great.
Well, thank you. And I think they really deserve that. This isn't, sort of everybody gets a trophy kind of thing. This is like saying, it's acknowledging that what we do is difficult, what we do as teachers and what these students are doing as students, to write running code and to fix running code and to design running code is not an easy thing. And they need to give themselves credit for work that they've done. And so we're helping them give themselves credit for that in maybe a way that sort of holding your breath, looking for a 3, 4, or 5 on the AP might not get that done. And we can do that on a daily or weekly or monthly basis with tools like the Hall of Fame and with some of the things like badges. And this is all sort of a precursor to talking about actual certs, which I'm getting ready to talk about. A great point, Lori. So let's see. All right, this slide, have a list of certs. This is not the list of what certs people have achieved. So I recommend that as you figure out what certs that you're going to have your students go after, or that you're going to suggest to your students or their parents or their friends, their older brother, sister, etc., so-and-so might be a good candidate, might consider going after this cert, that you have that list up on the board or in a sort of Hall of Fame type of thing, just the list of the certs. So that anybody, whenever they're in your classroom, can look and see, these are things that I might consider doing. And we'll go down the list of the CodeHS certs and some of the external certs in a second, but I strongly recommend that somewhere in your classroom, I have it actually on a whiteboard, a little space on my whiteboard. It's fills it vertically, but it's not too big horizontally. Just a list of all the certs that you might pursue, that somebody might pursue. It's not that many, it's 6 or 7 list. So I recommend that. So let's first talk about the CodeHS certs. And I'm pretty familiar with them because I've had a bunch of students take them. These are typically about an hour-and-a-half long exam, maybe I think 35 questions. And you need about a 65 or 70% score to get the cert. So this is a doable cert that is appropriate for somebody who has completed or nearly completed or mostly completed the CodeHS course that it pertains to. So when you are a CodeHS teacher, you're going to have vouchers, and down there in your certification, on the left side of your CodeHS home screen, down near the bottom, there's a thing called certifications. And when you click on that, you'll see some vouchers. And if you click on one of the vouchers, you're likely to see a thing like this that's going to tell you the name of the student, when they redeemed it, what the status of their exam was. And you notice that they don't always get instantaneous, or they don't get instantaneous feedback that they passed or failed the exam. It's usually somewhere inside of 2 weeks that they'll hear how they did on the exam. And you can see that I have Lucy, who has not, actually, I think she did pass the JavaScript, but it's on a different page. So this is where you would give your student the voucher number, they would redeem it. They don't have to take it right then when they've redeemed it, but it is up to them to take it at some point after that. Now, as we go in and talk about certs, I think of certs as something that can carry us all beyond and outside of the AP exam, which I still would like to keep included as a cert, because it certainly has a fair amount of cred, and people are used to referring to the AP. But once you put it into the sort of pantheon of certs, then you have an opportunity to choose other certs if you want to, or to have students and parents choose the AP as a goal that is somewhere, among a bunch of certs, and maybe a part of a portfolio of certs that their students are going after. So my initial objection to the AP in computer science was that it's only offered 1 day a year, and our CodeHS certs and other certs can be taken when the student feels ready. If they're having a bad day on May 4th, that can be a real problem. Yes, you can get a makeup exam, but it's it's much nicer to have a cert be available when you are ready, and might be a great thing to do a cert with a student who's maybe a little lagging behind some of the other students in the course, and they can do it when they've had a couple of weeks of summertime to really focus on this particular course. The AP is also not recognized by colleges for placement. Typically, most of our students that take the AP in computer science still have to take CS1 anyway. And there's a valid criticism, I think, that our AP exam relies too much on English language skills, because they have to, particularly in the FRQs, but also in the multiple choice questions, go through a lot of pretty abstract terminology just to figure out exactly what the question wants them to do. So the end result of the AP, to pick a few bones with it, is that it intimidates students before the exam, when they take it, and after. And our industry partners and our agency partners do not want us having students dropping out of coding after a high school course. That's not what they want. They want us delivering to them candidates. Marie Weber from Lockheed Martin calls me up and says, we need more applications from you guys. That's what they want. The agencies around us, I'm lucky enough to be in Baltimore, Washington area, so there's a lot of government agencies around here. They want more applications. They need help. When you ask Lockheed Martin people whether just the winner of CodeQuest is going to get the one spot in an internship, they come back to me and say, we want everybody who can do the job. So this is not the place for people being weeded out, and that's not our job. That's pretty much what I just said. So I'm going to plow through this slide and present as an alternative that, if you're ready, you could maybe be ready sooner. Suppose you have some high flyers in your AP Java class. I think it's a great idea if you have students that are maybe plowing through the CodeHS AP Java course and they're wrapping up the 9th or 10th module in February. Say, hey, let's go. Take this CodeHS Java cert and get it. And similarly, if you have people who are not ready to take the AP on the particular day, I would recommend that they postpone and consider taking it maybe in the summer. This is, I would say, the CodeHS cert is not necessarily a credential that will qualify you for a job, but getting used to the idea of certs definitely can put you on a path that will land you a job. And that's a great thing. I don't think you're doing any disservice to your students by saying, if you pass an Oracle 819 cert and you go to look for a job, that's gonna really shorten down the conversation and put you in a great group of people who are very hireable. Let's put it that way. Acquiring these certs indicates to everyone that you're a lifelong learner, a continuous improver, and that you're taking charge of your own ability to do things. And I think this is a great thing to instill in our students. You have the control of your schedule. If you're preparing for a cert, if you've got some family event coming up and you want to push the exam off, go ahead and push it off, or take that time and get back into it when you're ready. And I think that certs are a good way to set yourself apart in applications for college and for applications for internships. And because of it, the messages that it sends to these employers and agencies about the type of person you are. It is my personal opinion, without a shred of evidence, but it's my opinion that our agency partners and our corporations are not so much looking for people who are bringing a jug full of knowledge to the job, but they're looking for people they can train themselves. And they want to see evidence of somebody who is trainable, who can be put into some kind of training program, and then they can make them into the type of employee that they want. And that's what I believe. And I think that certs are a great way of proving to employers and to agencies that you are somebody who they could train. Let's talk just a touch more about some of the things I just mentioned about the demand that's out there for our students. And I certainly move as I teach my classes with this understanding that I'm helping them get ready to do a job that there is just tremendous need for. And that's what I get told by agencies and corporations. And if you want any proof of that, go on clearancejobs.com and just take a look at the jobs that are there, and talk to some people who are in the industry and ask them, say, how much do you need people? And they're just going to tell you, we're really, really looking for people. GM is converting their entire company to basically a software company, because an electric car has a lot fewer moving parts. Their robots are building their cars. They need software people. And, this is just one news item from a year ago about their first wave of hiring. They're building new factories that are a lot about software projects. And there's, by the way, let me just go back for a second. I'm not so good at moving back here. So just to finish the GM piece, if you do a little more research, you're going to see GM reaching out into colleges and high schools and looking for people that they can train. Lockheed Martin runs contests, not just to be nice guys, but because they want to find people who will come and work for them as high school and college interns, and then be ready to go the day after they graduate from college to make a really good salary and deal with all the huge contracts that they have. And they are furthermore very interested in helping our students pay for college and pay for grad school. I'm happy to brag in this context that one of my students has already been told by Lockheed that they're going to pay for her entire tab for grad school. So I'm just thrilled. Who wouldn't be thrilled to hear that? So we're interested for lots of reasons in helping people find certs. And I thought I would just point out how we can sort of feather our certs in and around the path that students are on, including the AP. And the way I would put it, based on the experience that I've had, is I would look at the CodeHS Java 1 cert as a little bit easier than the AP, and you can use that however you wish. You can maybe take some people who are nervous about the AP, or maybe they've taken some practice tests for the AP and they haven't done that well, and stick them and say, you know what, you can still get a cert out of this very difficult course that we're doing. You should try for this CodeHS Java 1 cert. Or other people, you might have them take the CodeHS Java 1 cert as a way of getting ready for the AP. I don't want to completely dismiss the AP, because it's worthwhile. I don't want to say completely discount it, and I think you should include it as an option that's still out there. And I would look at a student who is able to obtain a 3, a 4, or a 5 on the AP as somebody who's really done something, and that is a very praiseworthy achievement that they have made. And that's how I would look at it, is any passing score on the AP is noteworthy and a happy thing. Certainly, I would not choose to create a classroom climate where only a 5 or only a 4 or a 5 are considered acceptable. That's not the way I would ever want to go. And then we have something, now that I've just talked about how hard and horrible I say the AP is, we have something actually beyond the AP, but I think that AP Java can be a great springboard to this. And this is a tremendous cert, but I'm happy to say I've had some students get this thing, and that is Oracle 811. That is 150 minutes, 75 multiple choice questions, I think, maybe 60 multiple choice questions. The topic list for Oracle 811 is a little bigger than the AP, but if you get yourself through AP Java and you're sort of still flying, that's the time you can say to a student, hey, how'd you like an Oracle cert? And I have students whose parents work at Oracle or know about these Oracle certs, and they are just thrilled that their kids have been encouraged to try for Oracle 811. And then there is out there, and I would say if you have some second-year Java students, OCA, which is Oracle 819, and I'd say that's kind of the outer limit of high school Java, but I'm waiting for somebody to pick one of those up. I think it's going to happen. So let's get into this a little more. And then I would also say, they're not for everyone, and certs are not for everyone. And it's better off not to say, I think, or the way I would handle my class is not to say, hey, you guys are all we're gonna go through this class and we're all gonna take a cert, because then it just becomes another test that they'd rather not take. And I think there are gonna be students that are just not interested in taking a test, and anything they can do to avoid taking a test, that's okay. They're going to do that. They have their projects, they have their portfolios of code, they have their CodeHS exercises, they have badges. But don't be surprised if as you start to create this cert culture, you're gonna see a hand go up, or you're gonna see a student come to you that you didn't think was a super overachiever, and maybe he's not the student that's gotten the best grades, but he's gonna see, here's something I can go for and I can get it. And when I get it, nobody's going to be able to take it away from me. And I'm just delighted when I get those kind of students. I have a soccer player right now, and I know from having seen him play soccer and talking to his friends how hard he works at developing his soccer. And he is cranked up to pick up certs, and he goes after these badges one after another in my courses. And nothing could make me happier than the progress that Trevor's making. And I'll be really excited as he picks up a JavaScript cert, which he's going to get in a little bit here. All right, so let's see. CodeHS certs are great starter certs. Here's the CodeHS JavaScript level 1. And I would recommend, as you guys investigate this, that you make sure that your students get all the way through the animation module of the JavaScript course, as there are going to be questions in there on timer. This cert takes about an hour. I think it's a terrific cert. I love the CodeHS JavaScript course. And Carol is just priceless. And I would strongly recommend that you get some students who are moving a little quicker. They're maybe getting a module or two ahead of some of the other students. Say, look, there's this cert, why don't you go for it? And that they can get excited about that. And do not take it away from anybody. Everyone should have a shot at this, and I think it's totally worth doing. When they pass the cert, they get a certificate that looks, whoops, hold on. I went forward there for a second. Let's go back. Here we go. So this is the cert. There we go. This is actual certificate. And, CodeHS also provides certificates for people who get to 100% of their courses. Those are also nice and worth making a fuss. This is the one you get if you pass the exam. I have from time to time had upper school administrators sign these certs sign the certificates before I give them to a student. The students seem to really like that. If I hand them one of these, in addition to Jeremy and Zach's signature that's on there, the head of the upper school signature is on there. The cyber cert I really like. For you guys who are messing around with cyber, you may not have very many students doing cyber, but I think this is a good one to go for. I have a student that's done this, and I recommend this using the CodeHS cyber course. Java level 1 I've spoken to, and I think that the AP Java world is begging for something like this, because everybody that gets into AP Java is going to put out a ton of effort. They tend to be students who've got a little bit of experience coding, and it's a tremendously intimidating course. So what I love about the CodeHS Java level 1 cert is it is a touch less intimidating than the AP exam. And so I can't say enough good things about this particular cert. I think it's got a great sort of location in what we teach, a very appropriate thing to push students to do. So you might want to take a minute, or we could go in the chat and talk about this for a second. And if you want to ask me specific questions about CodeHS certs, there's certainly other ones. There's a Python cert, and I encourage you to take a look at some of those certs and think about ones that you might get your students to aim for. How am I doing, Laurie? We're a quarter past.
Oh, this is going way too fast, first of all. I keep thinking of ideas, Joe, and I think, all right, I need to go back and find a group of kids. But
Okay.
but you're
Great to
actually
hear.
inspiring me to be thinking about, what other certs I want to pursue. Somebody had tossed into chat a while back that they had, I think it's Security Plus.
Mhm.
And so,
That's a terrific one to go
for
for.
sure. And I absolutely encourage teachers to look at certifications for yourself as well. They're
Mhm.
extremely validating. And, you can always start by checking out some micro credentials that CodeHS has, but
Yeah,
I can't encourage you enough. I'm a bit of a collector of certs.
good.
So.
That's a good thing. I remember so clearly because until you have a student actually get an internship, it can feel like this sort of exclusive thing, like that's going to be something. The first time I ever went to Lucky Martin Code Quest, I was absolutely convinced that no student of mine was ever going to get one of these internships. And I remember then going to one of the first cyber quests that I ever went to at Lockheed Martin. And I sort of casually, I was getting interested in pushing certs for my students. And I said to one of the Lockheed Martin people that I thought maybe one of my students might pick up a Security Plus, and they gave me a look like, yeah, for sure, we would be real interested in a student that had that. I mean, those were pretty much her exact words.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've heard the same thing from industry partners that I've worked with, and not
Mhm.
just, as part of CodeHS, but when I was in the classroom as well.
Yeah.
These are skills they're looking for. So.
All right, I'm going to push on, Lori, with your encouragement. Let's keep going. Now let's talk about some of these Oracle certs, and I'm going to show the topic list and give you a little, get all of our teeth into these a little more, because this is we have talked about badges, we've talked about creating a Hall of Fame, we've talked about the CodeHS certs, and we're doing all this in the concept within the context that we're educating our students. This is not, this isn't trade school situation. This is we're helping our students motivate themselves to achieve and to break out of just that things are just about quizzes and tests and my grade point average, but we're gonna get something, acquire something, a badge or a cert that has a lot of meaning to me, to the student. So here we are looking at the Oracle 811 cert, and it's a passing score of 65%. It's 150 minutes. I mean, it's 2.5 hours grinding away. You can get this thing remotely proctored. So you can take it at your home. Your proctor looks at your webcam while you're taking the course, the cert, and can see what you're putting in on the computer. And let's keep going here. So Oracle actually created this 811 as a way of getting at learners. So they're very interested in getting people started on down the road of Oracle certs, which are very prestigious, industry recognized, get a job kind of certs. So this is kind of a bridge up from the CodeHS certs into the certs that somebody would put down and say, hey, I really want to work at Verizon and build some code and be a part of a coding team and help you guys. But if you look at the topics, as I did once upon a time, you see that Oracle 811 kind of jibes with the AP Java course and the particular pieces and topics of AP Java that are there. Java reserved words, for example. These operators are all taught in AP Java. Logical operators are part of AP Java. And I started to see this and I thought my students could do this. We could pick up this Oracle cert. But there are a few things, escape sequences are part of AP Java. There are a few things that are outside of AP Java. The do while loop does not appear in the AP subset. There's a couple other things that are there. Switch is not a part of the AP Java subset. I happen to think Switch is tremendously useful and worth showing to your students as they're learning the Java language because it's such an easy way to do multiple cases of things. So, again, this is a cert that getting ready for this cert and passing this cert is going to help your students become better Java coders. And the open secret is that everybody wants people who can do object-oriented programming, which is mostly taught in the Java language. If you learn object-oriented programming in Java, then if you have some Python skills, you can write complicated programs in Python that do classes and objects. Well, that's a topic for another time. So we're still looking at the Oracle 811 topic list. Array lists appear in AP Java. 1D arrays appear in AP Java. Exception handling, not so much. Try catch, not at all in AP Java. So these are a couple of things that are going to take a little while to get ready for. And there is a nice review book. It's taught by a guy named Deshmunk. I'll put it in the chat at the end, that you can pick up that can help cover these, or you can just go out and do your research on try, catch, switch, and exception handling. But my take on all this is that it's kind of AP Java plus a few extra topics. So it's something I think your students could pick up, and my students that have taken it have done it. So I'm quite thankful to them for attempting it, and they're all happy they have it. Overloaded methods we talk about in AP Java. Accessor and mutator methods we talk about in AP Java. Static methods we talk about in AP Java. All right, here are some of the other certs that I think we could consider that high school students could pick up. I mean, I teach cyber with a textbook and with the CodeHS course. And in the CodeHS course, they refer to some of these certs as possibilities. ITF Plus has a security component. Network Plus is covered to some extent in the CodeHS Cyber course. And Security Plus is something that should not be out of bounds, Lori, I think. So these are certs that you're using CodeHS. You can get your people ready for these pretty exciting certs that, and if you have a Security Plus, you can really get after some cool jobs and internships for sure. All right, here's a little page, the CompTIA page of ITF Plus, and they call it a pre-career certification. It's nice to get some experience with the CompTIA format. You sit down at your computer and take this test. And it does talk a little more about different operating systems like Windows, but there's a significant security component here. As a starting cert, I think this is a really good one for high school students to think about taking. It's kind of like A+ a bit with a security component tacked on. All right, let's talk about one of the stuff that my guys have been able to do. We've gotten CodeHS Java certs. We've gotten CodeHS JS certs. I just had a student get one last week, a JS cert. I've had a student get the cyber certs, and my students who've taken these and earned the certs are very psyched about them. They're proud to have them. I had a guy last year who took JS, did not pass it on his first try. And I said, this is like a sports team, and you lose your one game, you go play the next game. You don't forget the season. And he went out 3 weeks later and passed his CodeHS JS cert. I'm very happy about it. We've used 14 vouchers this year. We used 14 vouchers during 2021 academic year, and we plan to use 20 vouchers this year, 21 to 22. And for you guys who have Pro, I would recommend that you talk about vouchers at the time you're purchasing your Pro license from CodeHS, and see if you can wrap a certain number of vouchers into that purchase. That's my recommendation. I kind of like the students to have a little bit of skin in the game. I mean, I like them to pay something towards their certs. The certs go for about $60 a piece, which is, I think, very fair. The Oracle 811 cert is $95. 819, I think, is a bit more. I think it's $170. And we have guys chasing Security Plus and ITF Plus, but I don't have any who have earned that just yet. And I'm looking around. I had a great experience with a Java student who's on the robotics team, and he loves what the CodeHS AP Java course is doing for his ability to build Android apps. And he's all cranked up that, he can open up Android Studio and understand the Java that's the back end of Android. And I think I would like to look into how we might be able to get him an Android cert. And certainly there's a huge need for Android and iOS developers out there. So this would be a good time to hear from you guys about how you might go about adding certs into what you do. And I'd like to once again thank everybody at CodeHS, including Jeremy, Lori, Leah, and Linda. Certainly, thank you so much. And I'd really like to thank all of you guys who are on this call right now, because I've gotten some great ideas from you, great inspiration, and thank you for your input in the chat, etc. I'm going to show you guys one last video here next. If I have it, let's go. Here we go. This is about a minute.
You probably dreamed of this. Probably replayed this moment 1,000 times. You probably imagined the awe-inspiring, indescribable rush of the ride. Probably celebrated the miraculous, cheered the momentous, and mourned the shocking. You probably still dream of what could be. We did. We do. And while many thought we were through, no. We've been learning, we've been building, we've been training. And now it's time. Because the next frontier is not just for the next generation. It's for this generation. It's for me, and it's for you. For everything we still dream about. We go as Artemis.
All right. So I said in my last speech that there's a dream that all your students have. Your students are dreamers. They want to achieve things, and then they have projects and they have paths that they're following, and they're both necessary. You have to have the dreams and you have to do the work. So thank you very much for coming, and thank you, CodeHS folks.
Joe, this was great. I absolutely loved hearing about your progression from, badges through a Hall of Fame and the different certs, and just that progression and the constant celebration of success for your students as they just, make these different accomplishments. I just think that is so critical, to show kids that what they're doing is valid, that there's a purpose for this, and it just builds a sense of community, growth mindset, and the positivity is great. And I think this is even more so. I think it's important in anything, but field like computer science that so often does not get that level of recognition in schools that we'd like it to. I think that this is critical. So I felt very inspired by this. I hope all of you did too. I kept thinking of students kept coming to mind, and I just smiled at, when they finally found that success in something, and it happened to be computer science. So love this. This was very inspiring.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody have any questions, or is there anything you'd like to share? We so appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. We were talking a little bit before about how we know that teachers' lives are always busy. This year is a whole different level of, we don't even know what's happening some days, I think, coming off the pandemic and trying to go back and create some sense of normalcy when things just are not normal yet. So know that we're with you. We appreciate everything you do for your students, and thank you for taking an hour of your time to be with us today. We truly, truly appreciate it. And Joe,
thank you very much.
Joe, this was awesome.
Great.
Truly
Great to be
loved
with
it.
you.
We have one last request. Linda did toss into chat a quick workshop survey. If you could take a moment to fill that out, that would be great. We would love to know what you found valuable. And is there anything else you'd like to see us bring to you? So we're always looking for new ideas and things to do. So thank you again. And we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day.